So lately, I've become just a little bit obsessed with TikTok, mainly the book talk side of the app. I have recently become very, very obsessed with fantasy as well as sci-fi reading, and basically my entire For You page is all of that particular content. So needless to say, while I was basically perusing my For You page, I stumbled across this watercolor video that I have to say really piqued my interest. In this video, an artist who goes by the username Wolfcat Workshop, I'll make sure to link the TikTok video as well as his YouTube channel below, but he made an entire painting using this erasable pen, specifically using it with a Cricut cut machine, and I am very, very envious, but needless to say, it was with this particular erasable pen. So after watching the video, I did what any normal person would do and immediately go to their computer and find the item in said video and click the purchase button as quickly as possible. After waiting about a week, the item finally arrived at my doorstep and I immediately opened that package and commenced with the testing. So the very first thing that I wanted to test was how well this thing erased, specifically with a heat gun as was shown in the TikTok video. And the results, I think, really speak for themselves. Even in the TikTok video, with just a quick blast of heat, the ink completely disappeared with little to no effort. The next thing that I wanted to test was how well this ink erased, specifically after being painted over. And as you can see, it erased really well, even with multiple layers on top. Now, I will say the pen does leave indentations, especially if you are a hard kind of writer such as me. I tend to overexert my pressure when I'm using pencils or pens, and this basically ended up me scoring the paper a bit. So when the lines were erased, you could still see these slight indentations in the paper. So if you're looking for something that is going to leave absolutely no marks on your paper, just be aware this thing is going to leave slight marks. Even if you go very, very lightly on the paper, it still will leave slight indentations. So let's be honest with ourselves. In reality, most likely you are going to be using a pencil and leaving pencil marks behind. So this isn't that big of a deal. I just wanted to note that so that you knew this isn't going to completely leave your paper blank once you erase those ink lines. Now, another idea that I had while I was playing around with this erasable pen was, since I could leave indentations or scoring on the paper, this actually would be really cool to add texture to certain elements in your paintings. The first thing that came to my mind was grooves or natural looking lines of bark on a tree. So if you wanted to basically score the paper and know exactly where those scores were and then paint over that said object, you could then heat gun it and erase those lines completely, but yet the watercolor would still kind of go into those grooves and create natural lines with just the pigment of the paint. So that's a little trick that I thought of. I didn't really test it, but it's something to keep in mind. Now, the last thing that I really wanted to test with this erasable pen was actually using it in a project. So I wanted to create an easy abstract, basically triangle pattern, and then paint over those said lines multiple times over and over and over again. And the reason why I wanted to do this is to basically see if this ink would bleed the more layers I put on top of it or smudge. And also, would it still lift as easily the more layers that I put on top of it? So in certain sections of this painting, I did about 4 to 6 glazing layers. I could have pushed the paper a lot more, but I felt like that was a good kind of medium. You're normally not pushing your glazing layers further than that, although you can. So I thought that was a good kind of medium to test this ink out. And for the dramatic reveal, as you can see, it worked. No smudges or blurring. It erased just fine, even after all the layers that I put on top of it. So yeah, it was a fun product to kind of test and play around with. And I could see a lot of different opportunities of using this said product in different illustrations, as well as using it with different textures in watercolor. So thanks once again to Wolf Cat Workshop for sharing this little gem on TikTok. I will definitely be using this particular supply in the future, especially for illustrations where I want the paint to really shine a lot more than my line work necessarily would. So yeah, that was my findings for this particular supply. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't done so, and leave a comment down below. Basically, of any other supplies you'd like me to play around with. I have a whole little bucket full of supplies that I've collected over the year. But if there's something else that you'd like me to play around with, make sure to leave a comment down below, and I will be looking through those and adding more supplies to my little corner nook box over there. So anyway, lots of love, y'all. Happy painting, and I will see you next time. Bye.